Interesting. That's a neat connection.
Yeah, that's great that we have you with us to be part of this.
You're on our watch. Steven found
Yes.
out that this is cruise NA111.
Yeah.
January 11th.
This is for sure the best
That
watch.
was a weird one.
And we look for cucumbers, sea cucumbers too.
Yeah.
We count them.
We've surpassed 111 sea cucumbers, unfortunately. Can't tie that one to it.
Yeah, for our audience, we...
But maybe this watch has seen 111.
yeah, maybe.
I think almost. I think one of the other watches put too many on there.
Okay. Well, we'll get there eventually. We're just not really counting it.
Bridge, Nav. Request we step towards the selected target. You can change heading as needed. Thank you. Alright, well, we've got Argus behind us, so we'll see if we can keep it on the line.
Another Mona Lisa.
Thrusters are about to go, so we'll see how it agrees.
We've only got 8 knots of wind.
Yeah, no, it's definitely weather's laying down.
It was windy earlier.
But you said
when
the
I was
thrusters are having issues?
out midnight.
Or
No, it's
okay.
just they're gonna kick on as we spin around here.
Okay. I was like, what? What's the wind speed? And I was like, wait. Because we've done that before.
Yeah, in 10 minutes they'll jump 15 knots.
Yeah. It's going to go 8 knots, 26 knots. Same thing. Yeah, it was when that squall came through. It was like, we just watched it come over. Nav, would you zoom out on high pack plan?
Sure.
Just so that we can see the survey area and not Pongo.
Yeah.
It's not
I don't know why it's
super helpful.
there.
So, there had been a point put in here that we called, it was when we were having the planning meeting before we got on the first day. It was like 10.5 miles from Fugasa Bay. One of those measurements ended up right at the line 21 corner. Do you know? Oh, there it is. It's under default on the left, below. Can you click those two on Fugasa and Tapu Tapu? Yeah. Excellent. Can you get that point into the other version?
Yep, I can do it.
Because of that, we may want to do another line or something up there. Thank you.
Definitely.
We have a question about manganese-coated rocks.
Sure.
Why don't we usually want samples that have that coating?
Well, I mean, sometimes we do sampling of both biology and rock require specific reasons for it. In the case of biological samples, we are killing a specimen. Rock samples, a little bit less so. But with rocks and with both, there's a limitation with supplies on board, whether it be ethanol or storage and rocks. We have to ship back to the States from places like American Samoa, and trust me, shipping rocks is heavy and expensive.
Yeah.
So we don't just pick up anything. So usually, when the geologists on board or geologists who are tuning in from shore and are able to participate in the expedition through telepresence, when they request a sample, there's usually a scientific reason for it, and it's usually to characterize the rock type. Manganese coating is very common, and it's not, I mean, with the exception of certain studies on industrial uses of manganese or economic geology, it's less of the, we're trying to typically understand the source of the rocks, whether it's volcanic or what, and it's not usually part of the scientific reason to sample that. So I haven't seen any specific samples taken when I've been on Nautilus for that. They may have been, but it would depend
Is it
on
a special video request
who's
to get that
interested
up
in
in the
it.
center where the sonar is? Oh, I only have 1 and 2. Well, I don't need the switch. You can do it as a one-time favor. How's Dan getting it up there? No, in 13. Oh no. He's on the case. Excellent work.
Sorry, Mike, I think you were about to finish saying something.
No, that was mostly it. It's just sampling is usually done to find a specific rock type that'll characterize the geology of the area. Manganese coatings are something that happens over time in the deep sea, and is usually not the scientific interest in what we sample.
Thank
But
you.
I'm sure sometimes it is, and in the future it could be. Just typically what I've seen, it hasn't been.
Thanks.
Chris, if it's easier, you can just make that point as a target and label it the same thing. I don't. If
Yeah,
importing it's
I think I'm gonna do that because
Yeah.
when they started survey up,
Yeah, I'm
they
not sure, but
didn't
it's
have
fine
it
if you just because
selected.
it was an estimation anyway, so if you just put it in the same area, that's fine.
We have another question about this manganese crust. Do we know how it forms and why it is so common down in the deep?
I did know this. So I don't remember the specifics. It has to do with so iron and manganese form on oxygen and hydrogen particles called oxyhydroxides, and in certain oxygen environments they disassociate. I don't specifically remember. Rebecca's looking it up. I don't remember enough to explain it well. Why it forms in the deep sea.
Okay.
It wasn't the among the reading topics for this expedition, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. But thanks for your questions and thanks for following us.
There was a lot of manganese crust talk on our previous expedition when we were taking a lot of rock samples and trying to discern which ones would be good samples and not good samples.
Welcome to the people all over Europe and especially Ukraine. We have a pretty good number of our crew members that are from Ukraine.
I think on the next turn I might increase the transfer speed slightly and make these steps a little quicker.
So are we around 50 something targets now?
Believe
Yeah, we have
surpassed
55.
55. Yeah, so we have 55 targets that we may dive into and like further explore with Hercules and in the next couple of days. So the zigzaggy lines in the quad, um, it's basically showing the movement of the water, right, Wendy? How
In
Argus
the
moves.
in the side scan right now,
No,
or in the high pack?
in the light blue and purple one, yeah.
Yeah, so the purple lines is showing basically the Argus track, but there's a lot of noise in each measurement, so it kind of jumps around a little bit. But you can kind of get an idea from the rough line of where Argus has been.
Mhm.
Yeah, the USBL sensor is really sensitive, and we are really far away from it, so it's pretty easy for something to interrupt it and make it think Argus is somewhere else.
Mhm.
How often does it create a point of on that pink line?
Every
3
seconds,
seconds, I
Every
believe.
3 seconds? Yeah. And the reason that they're kind of zigzaggy and is because it's just not super precise, is that right?
Yeah, so each one's like an acoustic fix, basically. There's like a ping that comes up from Argus, and then the ship receives it,
Right.
and then tries to localize from that. And so, there's a little bit of error in each one, and so it kind of ends up, circling around the true point. And then if there's a lot of noise, it'll spike off.
But yeah, you can see if you draw like a line through the middle of that track, that's basically your best idea of where Argus is. But yeah, it's 3 seconds because the way we're telling Argus to ping is through the cable. So it's basically instantaneous. We could use the ship to ping down to Argus. So basically like yelling to it to like tell us where it is. And that would be 3 seconds down and 3 seconds back. So that'd be every 6 seconds. So that could introduce a lot more room for error. So by telling it through the tether to call up to us, it shortens that gap.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, the USBL is really cool. It's stands for ultra short baseline. It's basically, imagine 4 I guess nodes really close to each other on the ship. And if you move to the right or left, you're slightly, ever so slightly further away from some of the other nodes while you're closer, just even by millimeters in distance to the other ones. And through that it can kind of triangulate through some very precise measurements. where we are. So seeing that we're 3,200 meters away, and it can tell where we are based on millimeters, I'm pretty okay with the error that we're getting right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is excellent tracking for 3,000 meters for sure.
75 meters of cross-track error. Once that drops to 0, we'll just start on our line. But yeah, if any nav questions come up, Valeria, feel free to ask. I'm just watching Martina drive the ship right now.
What does it mean, noise, in our?
Yeah, actually like literal noise in this case. So it's sensing the sound. So a ping, you think of, when you see in the movies with sonar, you literally hear the ping go out, and it echoes off of stuff. Well, Argus is sending a ping up to us, and if there's anything else creating sound that's the same frequency that we're listening for, it will confuse the sensor. So we talk about the thrusters. When we're trying to move the ship, the thrusters will create noise, and so it interrupts that signal and displaces it a little bit. It's kind of like if you're trying to call out to your friend, but someone's standing right next to your friend screaming, it's going to be pretty hard for them to hear. $50 meters.
In our sonar return on the left up, we have the dark window now showing 40 meters. What does that mean?
So we're kind of on a slant right now. So the bottom is closer to us
Oh, okay.
on the one side and further away on the other side. So I think that's mostly what you're seeing. We're also moving very slowly, so I think you're seeing the same thing a lot of times.
Okay. We have a question about Herc. Are you? No.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Is that for me?
Perfect. So they're asking about how do we navigate Herc not to damage the ocean creatures, since they say like sometimes it seems like Herc is so close to the organisms that it might run over them.
Yeah. So for Herc's piloting, Mike here's in charge of that. So we have a lot of cameras surrounding Herc, and he has been doing this for a very long time. So we make sure we understand what areas we're getting into, and we take that into account for our piloting. So if we're very close to, let's say, a ridge that's got a lot of corals off of it, we'll stay a good distance off, and to get closer, Steven will zoom in on the camera, and it's a really good camera that can get you can be a good distance off and still get pretty good quality on it. So we don't have to get too close to anything. And then on my side, we make sure that Argus is even further behind Herc, and it is, Wendy would make sure it's above, so it also has kind of that extra view of situational awareness. So you can see exactly where Herc is in retrospect with everything else going on. So we got a bunch of different views of everything, and on top of that we map every area that we dive on, so we know the terrain as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, typically with Herc we have a bubble camera that is usually not sent out, so we usually send out the nice HD camera, which looks more outward than it does down. But we have a bubble camera that we can have on different angles that's up higher on the vehicle, and we can have that just looking almost straight down over the porch, so we can use that for piloting to see visually how far off we are. And we have an altimeter and we have a DVL that can both give us altitude. So we use we use our altitude combined with the downward facing camera just to get a good sense of how far off we are.
Cool. Someone asks if at some point it would be feasible to have one Argus and two Hercs.
One Argus and two Hercs. I guess it's technically possible, but it would be difficult, and if they get tangled up,
Yeah.
It'd be quite
a real nightmare.
quite the dance.
it'd be
Nightmare of
like
knots.
having two heads and one body almost, you know?
Technically, we have one Argus and two Hercs on board, though.
That's
True.
right, yeah.
That's
So
true.
maybe we can.
Let's not put them both in the water
No.
together.
Sometimes on bigger ships, more in industry, you might see like two ROV systems in the water at one time, but they're kind of totally independent and would be launched off opposite sides of the ship. So they have their own TMS, their own. Usually they go out in a cage or what they call a top hat. This is kind of similar to what we use with Argus. They go down in that, and then that thing is on a wire and takes the heave, and then the vehicle comes out and is as Herc is protected from the motion. But they have a lot of separation between them. They'd be on a much bigger vessel or a rig, and they'd be off opposite sides. But even that's not really common. It's just generally makes more sense to just have one for one.
Imagine walking one dog on a leash versus multiple dogs on
Yeah.
a leash.
Like
Yeah.
when I have to take the two dogs out on the leash, that's more irritating than one
One's
dog on the leash.
Gonna run around you and tangle you
And
up.
they have less
and
degrees of freedom to move.
yeah, the other
Right.
one's gonna pull, and
That's right.
both pilots are gonna see two different things in two opposite directions and want to go different ways.
Yeah, we have to have a lot of communication, even just with one set of vehicles in the water with the ship. If you have two vehicles in the water, we have to have a lot more communication between all three, and it's more margin for error, and so want of for our operations down here, we really don't. We get a lot done. We do quite well with just the one vehicle in the water, or the one pair.
But we do have, they're going forward with a mobile system coming forward, right? So not just Nautilus will be able to explore, but also they'll be able to expand their reach so that multiple teams can be working in multiple places across the world. So instead of 2 ROVs in the same spot, we'll have multiple ROVs all in separate spots. Get a lot more done that way.
Yeah. And as an update, you haven't missed the ROV dives yet. We're about to finish scanning with the side scan sonar the area, and we'll be diving the targets. We have so far 56 or something, and we will be diving with ROV Herc in the next couple of days, possibly.
Yeah, once we look over some of the targets we see, maybe visually take a look with just Argus, kind of find which targets we'd be most interested in.
Yeah, and if you're watching online and you're looking for the normal view that you see, because we only have one ROV, you have to go to the second feed, and you can see Argus view. We don't have Hercules in the water.
Yeah, we have another question about Herc. Is the bubble camera enough to sweep the entire area to ensure that we don't land on something?
Can you repeat the question?
Is the bubble camera enough to sweep the entire area to ensure that we don't land with Hercules on something?
No, the bubble camera is pretty limited in its scope, but we also have altitude sensors to tell us how far we are off the bottom, and we generally have the view from Argus as well, as long as it's not too the water is not too if our visibility is good, we get a good view from Argus. We have a depth or altimeter that tells us if we're 1 or 2 or 0.2 meters off the ground, and then combine that with the bubble camera. So generally we have a lot of redundancy for anything. We have at least a couple of ways to tell us where we are all the time, and we can use, make sure the instruments all agree with each other.
Yeah, we have a couple cameras on the side, either side of the vehicle too, so if we need to see anything off to the side, we can always use those.
There's a lot of cameras.
Yep.
It is incredible how technology allows us to do things like this.
Yeah, that's right. It's really neat.
It's pretty neat.
Great, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no worries. All right, ships coming across the line.
This is a piece of art, I think, right?
It's gonna look a lot like a fin. It might win the record for longest turn.
Yes.
It felt like an eternity to me. I don't know about you guys. But
Well, didn't we start it like as we started watch?
I think
It's
so.
been like an hour-long turn.
it was probably 20 minutes since I got here. I started the turn.
50
I would
minutes.
say outrageous.
We'll see if it was worthwhile. If Argus is just still off there, I don't know. But
Yeah, we have a question about the sonar. So in channel 1, You can see
Can
the
you talk a
X.
little louder?
Oh yeah. So let me check if this is the mic that is not properly. Sound check.
That's a little better. Yeah.
Better.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a question about the sonar. How wide is it, or the reception of it, and could we miss the plane? We couldn't miss the plane.
Well, so we basically we can optimize that. So the higher we are off the seabed, the farther out to each side it'll go to an extent. But we've sort of just figured that we picked a swath width of 150 meters to each side, so 300, and 100 meters to each side, or 200 in the high frequency sonar. So there's two different ones, high and low frequency. And at this altitude, about 15 to 20 meters, we're able to see the seabed. So there would normally be a blind spot below the vehicle because the sonar is pinged to the side. But with Argus seeing the seabed, we know that we're not missing something. And then we designed our track lines at 200 meters apart, so we don't have any gaps.
Perfect. Yeah, for the ones that started following us just now, we are on the expedition NA111, looking for the Samoan Clipper, Pan American Airways Sikorsky S-42B flying boat that was lost off American Samoa in January 1938. We know that they have some problems, and something caused that they were set on fire before they crashed. And now, 81 years after, we have the technology to look for them.
Yeah, I do find it really impressive how many things just kind of came together. Because Mike, you were talking about you were trying to price out like how much it would cost to get a ship here with the capabilities and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it just happened that Nautilus's schedule lined up, and we were able to come on board for cruise NA111.
Yeah, there's this definitely coincidence there.
And then
And just to explain to the audience, so this is Nautilus Cruise NA111, and Stephen pointed out a few days ago that the Samoan Clipper crashed on January 11th, which is also 111. So.
And then Rebecca back there.
And Rebecca is related to Captain Ed Music,
Connections.
who was in charge of the flight. So each one of the track lines are more or less 200 meters away from each other, right?
Yes.
How much did you say?
200 meters?
Yep.
Yeah, so with the lower frequency, we're getting about 50 meters of overlap in the middle.
I think it was raining. Oh, you got that one. There's a sea cucumber there.
158. We actually haven't seen one in a while, so
Yeah, I don't know if we just haven't been
paying
noticing
attention.
them, or if they're. I mean, we haven't been moving very much, so they have to kind of come by us.
Yeah.
They're moving very
And they
slowly.
don't move very fast either.
Yeah.
We're streaming now.
They're off the turn.
Yep, we're getting.
Argus is
Going.
almost over the line.
I mean, I'm surprised we haven't gotten this one. It's pretty good.
Mm.
Or this one. They probably saw it. I won't do it anymore.
I'm reading some of previous comments, and one of our followers says that I love watching Nautilus because it's the closest things to a real life Star Trek we can get.
That's true.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's amazing that you can watch this at home.
Yes, it is pretty neat. I started following the Nautilus after the visit to the Galapagos, and yeah, it's pretty neat. It feels awesome
It's really
to be
amazing.
there. Yeah.
It's like so much better than watching a TV show.
Oh,
Just have it
absolutely.
on while you're doing work all day, and just whenever something exciting happens, go over to it.
Yeah.
Is that what you do at home?
Well, I do it for work, so that's. Well, I look at it. I look at it sometimes, but I don't. Like just sit down and just focus on it. I just have it on like that. Like if I'm doing computer work, I'll have it on in the background, and if they see something cool, I'll flick it on. I haven't started writing in questions yet. I was going to start doing it this year, but not good ones, bothersome ones.
Just the same
Start
question
asking them
again and again.
Just
Really
heckling. And
annoying questions
yeah,
about
just
ROV
annoying
things.
questions
That
Alright, we
about-
start
yes.
the line 17.
Under my own name, just
Can we start logging line 17?
ROV questions for the other pilots.
Like-
backseat driving.
Like,
Why
don't-
doesn't the ROV sink? You know? Good like, yeah. Not to say that
Technically
they're
it
bad
does.
questions, but they're bad questions for me to ask.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
Thanks for
like-
all these questions. Yeah, we have a question about
Yeah, the-
is the fin on Argus working out as well as we hoped?
I'd say yeah.
I don't have any experience without the fin to compare it to.
Oh.
So
Mike, you tried to do it a couple years ago without the fin, right?
Yeah, more than a couple. It's definitely helping. There is still, you can see the heave. That's what the kind of the reason that there's wavy lines through the data, and that's more because there's two reasons. One's we're going only a knot because we can't tow Argus really much faster than that. So the sonar is pinging more frequently than we're really moving across the seabed, so we're getting duplicates. And then the wiggles are in this waves are from the heave, so Nautilus is moving up and down as waves come by, and Argus is designed to take that motion up so that Hercules can maneuver without any of that motion on the seabed, but that also means that when used as a tow fish, Argus is feeling all that, so we're getting that heave in the data. But we are getting less side-to-side movement from Argus because of the fin. So yeah, it's doing its job.
Yeah, great.
If you take a look at the quad view right now, you can see a beautifully composed shot of the
Yeah,
fin
that
in action.
dark trapezoid is the fin.
Well, we see it's still there.
It is still there. That's
Still
good.
I hope so.
That's good.
So besides the side scan sonar that we have in Argus, are we still using the boat sonar?
No.
No.
So when I was talking about the noise interference, we make sure we map beforehand. Thankfully for this specific site, NOAA's ship Okeanos Explorer did all this area, mapped it out in 2017, so we didn't have to do that beforehand. But we will do that beforehand, then turn it off so that the sound from that doesn't interrupt the other pings, like the USBL that we're talking about. So currently we have the side scan, and then Argus has its usual sonar that's scanning 360 degrees around it to make sure we're clear of any rocks or outcroppings.
And now populating the quad view is the standard Argus sonar that Chris just told you about.
Which I will put back into sector view.
Yeah, so what Mike just did is because we're going forward, we're only looking at the forward half. If Argus was going backwards and we had to worry about what was behind it, something else would be terribly, terribly wrong.
See, now it looks like we just keep going back and forth across the equator.
Yeah.
Mike had it going counterclockwise for a while when it was a full circle, and it just looked wrong.
Broke your mind. I think that's the right way to go on this side of the equator. You got to go counterclockwise.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, I think so. It's what all my physical oceanography, classes, everything went the other way.
Just did it itself.
Yeah.
Across.
Well, I mean, technically in the northern hemisphere, counterclockwise is cyclonic positive motion. So in the southern hemisphere, counterclockwise would be negative.
So when the Okeanos, when they did the scanning, the first scanning of the area, why couldn't have they found some of the remnants of the airplane? Is that because of the resolution?
Yes.
Yep.
Was it, are they using a similar system to us where it's a 50-meter resolution?
Yeah. So when you think about the size of these things, even if you have a lot of pings going out, which you do in a multi-beam, literally multiple beams, you can get a like generalized 50 by 50 meter cell on the bottom, which when you're mapping seamounts is fantastic. You get a good look at like what an undersea mountain would look like. But when you're looking for a plane in this instance, where the largest part of it was the wingspan, which was a little over 40 meters, or about 40 meters, that's completely within that 50 by 50 meter cell size. So you could completely miss it with the multi-beam. So yeah, the resolution is not what we need. That's why we're all the way down 20 meters off the bottom, scanning with a lot higher frequency, so that we get better resolution. Yeah, no, these questions are a lot better than the questions I would ask if I wrote in. You just write those like really oddly specific ones where you don't sign it, so they don't know who it is, but you know way too much about the operations to be just some random person.
Yeah,
Just
thank you
start-
so much for these
Yeah,
questions.
they're good questions.
They're
Yeah.
super cool. It's nice that we have so many people not only following us, but like really interested in what we do and how this works.
Yeah, we have a lot of viewers that are repeat followers, and
Yeah.
will actually like we've had them write in to our watch, like tracking like the inside jokes and stuff of the watch,
Yeah, totally.
which is really funny.
I remember when I first watched, I typed in a question and I was trying to understand why the ROVs weren't going up and down with the waves. And that's when I learned about the tether system with Argus and Hercules.
Well, we have Argus. I work with a few different vehicles, and Herc is by far the easiest and nicest to fly. That is largely good control system and everything, but is largely due to Argus taking the shot, being a shock dampener. Work with a lot of single body systems, and even if they're in deep water and you're just on an armored cable. You tend to have even if the system has like a good control system, you tend to have the auto heading on and stuff like that, so that because the cable is always pulling hard on the vehicle. And Herc is very easy to fly, very smoothly. It makes for a really, really great video. Nice imagery.
We have someone that watches every season to the point where she thinks that she stalks us. That's so great.
I mean, is it really stalking if we're the ones that put up all the cameras and send it out to the internet?
Right. No, it's not.
It's just support.
It's, yeah, we're
Invited.
following.
Absolutely.
Unless she actually stalks us outside of this. That's different. But
I feel like it should be in like every science classroom, almost. Like
right?
why wouldn't you use it as an asset, just to say something, you watch it this week and, to write about something they were doing. Tell me something about something that they were doing on there.
Yeah, I don't know, like with our season, it's like so much of it's over the summer.
That's right.
Doesn't overlap with some schools as well as it could, but we've been going more and more into like September, October.
We go right into like mid-October,
Yeah. But for our followers, if they are interested or know summer camps or museums or places where people get together and would be interested, we could have interactions with you. You just have to get in contact with us through our website, nautiluslive.org, and we could do that.
Yeah, it's interested in trying to put one together for sometime after the school year started, for like everywhere has some centers, where schools go to for field trips, whether it's like a geo center or some sort of a science center or a natural history museum or something like that. And try and get a group on the go, and then like do a live interaction with the ship, and hopefully there'll be interesting dives going on at the same time. But yeah, we do a lot of that on here to different groups. It's pretty neat.